Are you ready? Okay, I know it's been a long day, and we thank all of you for staying here with us. And I know it's been a great 2 days of activity here in the great city of Atlanta. Our next keynote speaker really doesn't need an introduction, but he's deserving of one for how far he has come and has created such a huge empire. Russell Simmons, who's the chairman and chief executive officer for Rush Communications. Forbes magazine recently named Russell Simmons one of Hollywood's most influential celebrities. USA Today named Russell Simmons one of the top 25 most influential people over the past 25 years, calling him a hip-hop pioneer for his groundbreaking vision that has influenced music, fashion, finance, jewelry industry, television, and film, as well as the face of modern philanthropy. From creating his seminal Def Jam recordings in 1984 to his fashion industry changing brands, including Fat Farm in 1992, Baby Phat, 2001, and current men's lifestyle brand Argyle Culture, to founding Unirush in 2003, providing instant access to a set of basic financial services for over 48 million Americans. Isn't that very impressive? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow delegates from around the world, I would like to introduce to you Russell Simmons, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer for Rush Communications, and John Hope Bryant, Founder, Chairman and CEO for Operation Hope.
Look at this. All for you, brother. All for love. All good. Have you enjoyed yourself? Isn't this a great way to close this out? You've had the Civil Rights Chairman, Ambassador Andrew Young. You've had the Civil Rights Chairwoman, Dr. Bernice King. You've had the Federal Reserve Chairman, Ben Bernanke. And now you got the hip-hop chairman, Russell Simmons. Give him some love. Russell, we have a full house here from 30 some odd countries. You also are being televised thanks to Kaplan University, to their 2 million students and people around the world, and major networks are here. Nothing that you're unfamiliar with. Slightly different crowd maybe than you're used to speaking to, but you are a global citizen, a universal force, and an incredible inspiration for a generation. And I'm honored to say you're now my friend. Russell has a very humble spirit, but make this clear. Now, I couldn't talk like this with the Federal Reserve Chairman. You know, you got to be appropriate and all that kind of stuff. I can just talk. This is a bad brother. And anybody need me to translate that for him into Mandarin or Japanese?
Can you do that?
Can you chap it? Bad brother? I'm not quite sure. I'll try. What I say is he's a bad brother. Russell has forged a path that is unique not only in America but the world. Russell reminds me, in many ways, our story is the same and different. I grew up in the hood. He grew up in underserved neighborhoods in New York, and we both started early in life dreaming big dreams. I had my first business when I was 10 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur. We just in different spaces. He works in entertainment in Hollywood. I work in entertainment in Washington, D.C. Oh, I didn't say that. But on a serious note, while I may have been able to build, with God's help, a bit of a mini conglomerate of nonprofit interests that are trying to make the world better, with a dash of for-profit, Russell has built a for-profit enterprise, which I think is harder, by the way, and a big dash of nonprofit philanthropic leadership. And he's a spiritual brother, and not afraid to let you know it. Russell, what are you doing tonight? Can we have a meeting? I'm going to yoga. You can reach me after or before, but that is his way he recharges and stays balanced. And he's not afraid to talk about his spirituality, his faith, and what he thinks is important. And by the way, he made us give you those books that you have there. If you appreciate that, say thank you. Russell got upset with me because he thought the books were going to VIPs and the speakers and all that stuff. He said, I want the books to go to common folks. I want them to go to the average citizen. I want them to go to the kids. And you'll see that the one lady who wanted to make sure the students has it, she's like, we got it. Okay. So let's now get to the meat of the program. This is really the culmination of 2 days, Russ. Okay. We started out with a banker's bus tour, an opportunity bus tour through Atlanta yesterday, talking about the unmet need and investment in the community. Then we went to Dr. King's and Daddy King's home at the King Center. You met Dr. Bernice King, and we honored Daddy King, Dr. King's father, with a Martin Luther King Senior Community Resource Complex in our Hope Financial Dignity Center at Ebenezer cut the ribbon. Then we had a Global Dignity Forum, the Crown Prince of Norway, civil rights leaders, talking about virtues and values. And then last night we had a session on jobs. We went from the right brain to the left brain, and now we're coming back full circle to right and left brain, a nice balance with a cool touch. One of the things that Quincy Jones, is a friend of both of ours, has said that it takes 20 years to change a culture. In the last 20 years, I'd argue we've made dumb sexy. We've dumbed down and celebrated it. And we've got to make smart sexy again. I think you've made smart sexy. And you've done it in fashion. You've done it in music, of course. But you've also done it in some fairly non-traditional areas that you don't normally see people of color.
Let me say.
Please.
Thank you first for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Yeah. And thank you for the work that you're doing in our community. It will be needed. I'm here, and I was told I was here because I was an entrepreneur. And and I wanted to give everybody a book. I noticed some people will be left out but I wanted everybody to get a book because all that I know is in that book, and it's simple. But these simple ideas that are in the book, and no matter how many times they're repeated, they're forgotten. And they're written in every scripture, and they're taught by every prophet. It's over and over again, the same rap, but we forget these things. So my book, although it's a business book, it received a half a star from the Business Week when it got its book review. The other half went to a friend of mine, Deepak Chopra. We both wrote business books at the same time, and we shared a star. So I was in good company, but they said my book wasn't shit. I mean, it wasn't, But it got 5 stars from the Washington Post, and it had some virtue, but as a business book, they didn't get it. Yeah. The fact is, it's about an entrepreneurship, and it's about operating from a place where you can create. And I think people forget about the creative process. They go to work and they're numbers, just like we take the art education out of the schools, and we expect a kid to take math and science and build something. But the creative brain needs exercise. And so the idea of operating from a spiritual place is the basis of where everything comes. And we're taught to operate from the outside in, when my book and whatever message I can give you about entrepreneurship is about coming from the inside out. Yeah. So super rich, the book you have, is the definition of super rich, for those who think it's just about money and toys, is a state of needing nothing. It's a state of consciousness. And so this is what I think I can, to a business summit, I would contribute this idea of being awake and consciousness being the core. So a black preacher would tell you, or any preacher would tell you, operate from abundance. Yeah. And this place of needing nothing attracts everything. Yeah. So that's what the book is about, and this is like my contributions, my experiences as I look back. Now, I can look back and remember times where this wasn't part of my rap, but it was part of my process. Yeah. So I could look back and say, what is it that made me open up this company? That, how did I, and after a few companies, you start to find you can do more, and you found faith and resilience can take you almost anywhere.
Yeah.
But experiences, first time around or first few times around, give you the guts to continue.
Yeah.
We all have to just look inside for that, to promote that first experience, and to be resilient enough to follow it through.
Yeah.
So that's what the book's about. The book's about what do we need to build a business from a spiritual standpoint, and what is it in us that allows us the creativity and the resilience. So how do we dig for that? And the book meant about lessons, specific tools, including meditation, because meditation is, for me and for anyone, those moments of presence are the only moments that you can ever create anything.
Yes.
And the moments of presence are the only time that you can be happy.
Yeah.
And the only time that you can, so we want to work on having more moments of presence.
Yeah.
And that's what the book's about. And that's the subject that not only is my book on, but it's the basis of all spiritual teaching. And we forget. So I hope that the people who have the book find something in it. And I got, again, it's a half a star. I think for business people, it's critical to know that work now and forget results. To put our head down and be awake and focused. And that's, the work itself is a prayer, not the result. And these are lessons that are taught over and over again by the different prophets, but forgotten over and over again by the masses.
Russell, let's talk about half a star for a minute. This is a great topic, the way to focus on right now. Ambassador Andrew Young, who's in the audience, 100 honorary doctorate degrees, Dr. King's right arm in the civil rights movement. You know his legacy, his legend. He was fired by the UN. I mean, we could say he resigned, but he was fired. He was fired at the UN as ambassador when he worked for President Carter, the first black man to be UN ambassador, because he dared talk to the Palestinians. And while back in that day that was a no-no, of course you know today you cannot have peace in the Middle East without talking to, of course, the Palestinians. So he was right. He was just ahead of his time.
I was just in Israel, brother. I have a program with imams and rabbis around the world. You know about it.
Yeah.
And in 39 countries, we have imams speak in synagogues and rabbis speak in mosques. So when I went to Israel, because they thought the programs were not going to be fruitful in the beginning. No one liked the idea. And then it spread like wildfire, and the imams wrote letters to Hamas to release the Israeli soldier, and the rabbis had rallies to fight the Peter King hearings recently. And had been very successful in helping each other.
Yeah.
But I was just in Israel, and I met with the Grand Mufti of the Palestinian people, and I met with the chief rabbi, and I find out that they both like the Saudi Arabian peace plan. So to see the top religious people in agreement, and then the political leaders not having a dialogue, without the dialogue, I never went for politics. I thought building the programs for tolerance was plenty. And it was maybe even an impossible task. We now are going to have 20 programs, I guess. I mean, as of today, what's going on? We had 20 programs set to launch this month with the exchange of pulpits and the whole programs together. So when the religious leaders are in agreement, why can't we make the political leaders have a dialogue? And that's a good question, but we find a lot of these things to be simpler than they make them. Dialogue is always key.
Yeah.
So I applaud Ambassador Young for that, because you can't do shit without
It's okay.
having a discussion,
We made sure the Federal Reserve Chairman was gone before you spoke. You can say whatever you want. Now let's go a little further though, Russ, on this topic of the half a star and Ambassador Young's Rainbows After Storms, Loss Creates Leaders. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. got a C- in public speaking from Crozier Seminary and Morehouse. And basically they said, Russ, if you don't stop talking like that, you're not going to amount to anything. Imagine what would have happened if he had changed and bent his spirit to the will of the traditional world. So how dare you go from New York in the boroughs to go to Israel, to go to here, to go to a yoga class, to start business? Who do you think you are to go from a hip-hop mogul with a hat on sideways?
No,
Now, talk to me about the audaciousness of your spirit and what gives you the sense that you can do these things and start these businesses, because that's, of course, part of the gift.
I think that every business, you can't ever fail until you quit. So there's a starting point. And if you sit, a lot of the noise that tells you no goes away. You know, I'm on the board of the David Lynch Foundation, and we've given hundreds of thousands of kids meditation. I think anybody, there's a chapter in there. I just finished a book on meditation. It's not out. I would have brought it for you. But this idea of being still and letting the noise settle. And inside, what's left is God. And with this God consciousness, anything is possible. All of us inside us have strength that we have never tapped into or don't tap into enough. It can't just be in spurts. There's active work, ongoing process that in terms of sharpening or refining your ability to operate from inside. It doesn't happen because you decide one day you want to. The path begins when you start it. Because you can, you know, the yogis refer to samsara as you do the same dumb shit every morning. You wake up, headache from last night, cocaine, and you didn't get cleaned up and work out and shit, and you get high again and wake up the same shit. Do the same shit every day. You know, it's like when you find yourself going on the wrong, and there's a great yogi who said this. I want to repeat. It's in the book, the story of woman Ruth, a very sweet woman, and she's such a great teacher, and she's very fluent in Sanskrit, the holy language, and she's got all of this Ayurvedic knowledge and yogic science, but she speaks very simple. And I remember being in a class where it was, and this is a deeply, you know, she had a huge following, and every spot was taken, mat to mat. And she tells a story, and everybody, you could hear a pin drop, and she said, when you find yourself, it's the nature of spiritual evolution is like this. When you find yourself headed on the train the wrong way, everybody's bent over, she says, you get up, and then, oh shit, go the other way, get on the other side, and then take the train the other way. And everybody's light bulbs went off, like, I'm gonna stop beating my wife, or I'm gonna stop, I mean, all kinds of things were coming out of people. I know in their brains that it's simple. You know what's right. You just have to put the brakes on and do what's right. And it's a simple spiritual, that's the nature of all, and you just start a process. And you keep going the right way. And before you know it, you can make, it's not about every second checking your gauge, it's about remembering to remember. Your spiritual practice is something that takes, it's practice, just that. You don't wake up and it just happens, it's a practice.
Yeah.
So I think that that's central, that people have to remember that it's not going to be built in a day, but you can start one day. You can start now on a path, and you cannot end up where you plan on going if you're focused and if you dedicate yourself.
Yeah. When we met last time we were together, I walked up to you and you know, we have a nice, gracious relationship. You're always very kind, but I intentionally sort of pushed your buttons. I tried to. And I said, look, Russ, financial services is important, man. This credit card you got, I think when it first came out, let me finish. When it first came out, I wasn't your biggest fan. But you've evolved it, you've made these changes. What do you say about that? But I didn't, and you were very humble. You came back and said, yeah, it's not the best, and I want it, but it was improving, and we just got with green dot and so on and so forth. And I think life is 10% what life does to you, and 90% how you choose to respond to it. And your response said everything about your character to me. It was humble. It was, Ambassador Young has a great quote in his book, his last book. The LinkedIn founder said, if you're not slightly embarrassed by your 1.0 software release, you release too late. So don't let the best be the death of the good. You've now served 48 million Americans with your product, and you're constantly trying to evolve it and make it better. You've already said you're not perfect, and some mistakes were made, but you keep on moving. Well, tell us about that, and by the way, we should commend them for trying.
Let me give you this. Right. 9 years ago, someone asked me, could I help brand a phone card? And I looked at it, and I wanted to give the gift of communications, but there was no way to do it where the price was competitive with what people were paying who had credit. There was no way of doing it. So there was no gift. It was not exploitative because it was expensive to do it. It's impossible to do it. So when I looked into it, I found a brother who had a financial, it's a collection agency, really. I think it's a debt collection. That's how you would describe it. They had billions of dollars in debt. And I went to him, and we created an idea of stored value with his customers. And the stored value was the idea of the phone card. So if we had stored value, then maybe we can give them the same price because we have the money, you have the phone, we're paying the phone bill. So stored value became an idea, and with his customers, we said maybe we can service his customers. There was no such thing as my industry. I didn't put my name to an idea. We invented an industry. And now American Express and Chase Manhattan and Green Dot and others. But we did something for people who could not get a bank account. And there were millions of Americans with no bank account. They would get their check. They would go to check cash in place. They would get online in 8 to 12 hours, sometimes a week, just to pay their bills. They couldn't buy nothing on the internet. They couldn't rent a hotel room. They couldn't get a car.
That's dignity.
Right. So they were stripped of that, and that was everybody online at the check cash in place. We created a card that would store value, and we did it because there was 48 million or 50 million Americans back then. You said 48, 50 million Americans back then who could not, no matter what, get a bank account. Then, in years we lost money, and we tried to create new vehicles. We were alone. There was no one in this industry. And then we turned profitable, and right about the time we turned profitable, J.P. Morgan put out a report and said that it cost about $350 a year just to manage a bank account. And we started to look at the banking business versus our business. And what we found is there's probably 90 million Americans who make less than $75,000 a year. And they would benefit tremendously from using a Rush card or our competitors. I would say that our card, with all of the services attached to it, are better than competitive to any of the other customers out there. So if there's a guy from American Express there, or if there's a guy from whatever company is out there, I would say that we are better than competitive. So in this industry, but the industry itself, there's a new Pew report that said that 2 out of 3 of these customers are much better off with this card. So we have some challenges, and I was telling you about some of the challenges. The credit unions, we've been reporting to them for some time, but can't make them take our information. And threatening them alone doesn't make, as the industry grows, we have to put pressure on credit unions, because when you pay a phone bill, you're paying
You mean
service.
credit reporting agencies?
Credit reporting agencies.
We love credit unions.
Credit reporting agencies. And this is a big deal, because if you pay for services rendered, you should bill credit. You shouldn't have to dig a deep hole in order to bill credit.
Amen.
To be reliable doesn't mean you have to be in debt. Yeah. And this is an American. So we have new services. We have check capturing coming. We're now going to have one thing that Chase Manhattan did is they have all of these free ATMs. So in January or sometime early next year, we'll have 23,000 totally free ATMs, which brings the cost down. We keep evolving, but we invented an industry.
Hold on, wait a minute. Free ATMs?
Totally free ATMs.
Because if I go to somebody who's not my bank, it costs me $2.50. It'll be free if you have a stored value card with you, it'll be free?
That's right. And you can, as you know, you can transfer money card to card for 90 cents. You can send money to Australia, your mother. Most of our mothers ain't in Australia, but send our mother might be in Puerto Rico or it might be in Jamaica. We can send money to her by a phone for 99 cents. You get prescription drug discounts between 20 and 80%. You get your Viagra for 50 cents off.
What are you looking at me for?
Well, I'm saying, I'm just suggesting you can get anything you want.
Don't suggest it to me.
Much cheaper.
Don't suggest it to me. Don't suggest it to Ambassador Young. Don't suggest it.
I don't know why you're embarrassed, man. Well, anyway, I'm just, and I don't know why you're so defensive either. Shit. But as we get new services, we pass them along. As we find new technology, we pass along the price. It's $5.95 a month. Or you can pay $1 per transaction, up to 10 is the ceiling. And if you add that up, it's not the $350 that a bank needs to manage your account. So they're looking at you like, we need $400 from you. And whether it's bounce checks or something, we got to get $400, or we're going to try to figure a way to get rid of you. So, if we get $100 from a customer for a year, we're happy. They need $350.
And let me
so I look at us like let me just say one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I look at this service as if we're like iTunes, and the banks for some people is like Tower Records. Tower Records is out of business for some people, right? Or for everybody. Because with technology, they're brick and mortar. And we're trying to build up new ways to find more services, including checking accounts, which we're going to launch soon, and there's all kinds of new services all the time, and it's a lot. We pick the phone up. I mean, a lot of cards could be, new investments and new cards, but we pick the phone up. When you call, and we don't charge you. We have never charged for customer service, not a nickel, not a person. And we don't plan on ever charging for customer service. That's an expensive thing for some people. Our customers call us an average of 10 times a month.
So let me contextualize this. Number one, when FedEx began to compete with the U.S. Postal Service, it made the Postal Service a better organization. So this is not, to really build on what Diana said in the last session, this is not about either or. It's not rush card or stored value or banking. It's rush card and banking, and that every good marriage is made of constructive friction. That constructive friction will cause everybody to be better and to grow. So that's number one. Number two, I agree with you 100% on the future of banking. You didn't say it, but you inferred it. There are 7 billion cell phones in the world today. Cell phones. And Africa will probably become the first wireless continent. They're going to just jump right over landline phones. Right now, you go to a little village in Africa, people with no running water and no roof over their head and no electricity have a cell phone. And so banking, the new bank branch will be in your hand. So you do have something here. It makes a lot of sense, and all of the analysts and people who think about this are confirming that. There's a competition that you are rightly so articulating between yourself and banks, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely, Ken.
And I'm just making the point that it's not either or.
But let me say this though: the analysts have been, unusually harsh. I think that when they analyze what we do, they should analyze it in relation to what the other options are. They're quick to say, that there are high fees, but we have hundreds of employees. We have call centers in different languages. We have fraud prevention. We have processors. It's a very deeply technical business with lots of manpower, not as much as a bank, but we make very small margin. Now, it's true that some businesses come in and lose $100 million to disrupt this business because they see its future, and there are some doing it, and they know who they are. Some of them are here, but they can spend $100 million, but they have to know the customer.
Yeah.
You can get stuck. You get stuck in, and there's other things that will make you run away from that customer. But of course, you can get stuck. If I drop you off in the hood with American Express, if I drop you off in the hood with one of their cards, you may have a problem. Mm-hmm. So we're trying our best. We're in a very competitive phase. I remember being on the board of Walmart, the advisory board, and Lee, what was his name? Lee Scott walked in and said, "Look what we're doing." And I thought, like any pharmacist would think, I was there to lighten their footprint on communities. That's why I joined the board. How could I help them lighten their footprints on entrepreneurs and businesses, and not to be just a monster? That was my mantra. So if they were to come in and say, I have a business that kills yours, then if it's cheaper for the people and it's good, then I go along with it. But they came in with their business and said, look what we're doing. And ever since then, there's been nothing but new competition. And we remain better than competitive. So it's...
But in all fairness, you have to admit your fees were higher, and now you've brought those fees down
as
over
we
time.
Get better technology, and as we have a tight little infrastructure, we can't go out and lose hundreds of millions of dollars building it. It's true. It is up to $10 a month. Yeah. you know, and that's expensive, but that's $120. That's not $350. And so now it's $595 a month, and which is free
But wait a
ATM.
minute. You know what I love about this man? He's owning it. Whatever it is, he's owning it. That's extraordinarily credible and integrity rich. And I think it is to be transparent.
But I want to not only be, and I know we're probably the most transparent company in the business regarding our fees.
Yeah.
It's crystal clear and it's in big print. There's no hidden fees or anything like that. But we built the business at first as a service. I felt like it might even almost be a philanthropic. I almost handed it over we talked to people who said, can we provide this service as a social? People don't have banks. And for me, it was a daunting task to find staff, build out this. I could barely count. I'm building a financial service company. I'm a cultural person. I built it because of a need. And I think that's one of the messages, the reason we meditate and the reason we want our mind to be settled, because people are looking for a white space as an entrepreneur, looking for something people need that you can give them. This is what you're supposed to look for. And there's some people who can walk around all day and all they can do is duplicate what's been done. And meanwhile, people are missing everything. They need so much. And no entrepreneurs will service them because they can only duplicate what's been done. It's why you need arts in the school. You meditate, you find that the world is a white space, not the little space in between the cracks of what's been done. It's a big white space and there's a little cracks of what has been done. It's not, so it's the opposite. To see the world as a space and to see people as needing lots of services, lots of things that add value to their life, to make their lives easier. Not there's only a few left and they're all covered. You walk through the department store and you can't find what people need. So why be in the business if they have everything? Well, they don't got one black designer. So I built a black company that built on these ideas, that there's some black input in mainstream American fashion. Or there's not a show with a reverend on reality. Black comedians ain't got a shot at doing nothing. There ain't no hip hop records. It just goes on and on. There's always something that, that's creative and fun and that services people and gives them something. And there was no such thing as a debit card when we started. Not this kind. So.
Now, one last thing on this, and we're going to transition. I pushed you on another thing. I pushed you on adding financial literacy tools and financial dignity agenda to your card, and what was your response?
Well, my response is we work on it all the time, but I think part of it was I did on 70 shows around this country where I brought out rappers, and as many as 10,000 people would come, and I would drag with me a Susie Orman or Chrysler Financial or different financial experts and big stars to the stage. So everybody from Eminem to Jay-Z to 50 Cent to Puffy to, name rap, every rapper participated in their city where we would have thousands of people. We came to Atlanta at least 3 or 4 times, and we'd have financial summits, hip-hop summits with 10,000 people, 5,000 people.
No, that's good, but you told, give him some love, that's all good. But you told me specifically you were interested, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, in adding financial literacy to your card, your Rush card.
Yes, that too. We have a whole team of people, which when I talked about all the bills that we have to pay to keep the company, we have a whole team of people doing product development, and we were just talking about all kinds of games for kids and all kinds of applications apps that we would introduce as part of our process that would educate kids on financial literacy, because it's not like our parents taught us financial literacy, some of us. I mean, some of y'all maybe, but it's not like our communities are the best in financial literacy, and our kids and sometimes are not prepared. They don't learn in school financial literacy.
So let's now transition right on that point to Gallup. Their CEO, Jim Clifton, was here today. He may still be here. And Jim did a Gallup Index study, Russell, and it found that 30 million kids in America, 4th grade through 12th grade, and the 30% to 70% dropout rate in high school, black men dropping out at a 70% rate, just devastating, found that 91% of all kids not afraid to take risks. 77% of all kids want to be their own boss. 44% of all kids want to own their own business. 47%, I believe they'd create something to change the world. but only 5 kids had a business role model or a business internship. And we thought that that gap between the 5% who had a business role model or a business internship and the 77% who wanted to be their own boss, if we don't gap that, our experience with leading the free world in 10 years is done. And so we've got to create a generation of young entrepreneurs, small self-employment projects, small business owners, start at high school, go and do, we have something called Hope Business in a Box. We give the kid a financial literacy lesson, a primer course in entrepreneurship, 25 businesses you can start for $500 or less, a pitch event in the auditorium for the kids, think Shark Tank for kids, 2 minutes to pitch their business idea, and if they win, they get a business role model and a $500 loan, a grant, and they get to start a business. We want to create literally millions of Russell Simmons dreamers around the world. Now, because no one's going to give us a job, we may have to create a job for our own. You created a job for yourself. Here's the question. Music, fashion, jewelry, television, film, modern philanthropy, your first company that I'm aware of, Def Jam Recordings, 84, and now financial services. Who are you to think you can do all this stuff and build these big dreams, and who told you, what business role model, what mentor infused in you a belief that you could do it?
There are mentors everywhere, and they say, to look for a guru, but there are gurus in different places. If you're a designer, you have to go to 7th Avenue, and you have to find your mentor on 7th Avenue. If you're an actress, you have to go to LA, to Hollywood. So you have to go where your industry is, and you have to be around the people that inspire you, and you have to work for free for them, if that's what's necessary. If you want to be an owner of a business, maybe you should sweep the front of that business. I mean, literally, maybe you have to go sweep the front of the store. And maybe they'll ask you in, and maybe you'll merchandise the shelf, and maybe you'll do a good job. And from there, you work the register, and you put the money around the rubber band. And you'll come up with some ideas, and you will teach the owner how to run his business better, and you'll be a servant. So this idea of being around the people who inspire you and being inspired by and being a servant. A servant. I have so many stories of so many interns that became presidents. Kevin Lau came, he wasn't even an intern, he was a street team member who worked his way to intern, who worked his way from intern to a promotion director in a region, or in a city to a region, from a region to the head of the whole promotion department, and then one day to president. Mike Kaiser had the same experience. Julie Greenwald was an intern. Leo Cohen was an intern. Brett Ratner used to follow me around and carry my shit. These people were servants. The people I've seen come up and become presidents or become the top of their game.
I chased this man for 10 years, Ambassador Andrew Young, and he avoided me every chance he got.
And then but he was your mentor.
Yeah, well, I forced myself on him, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's right. You got to be there until, it's like...
I wore him down, basically.
That's right. And, and it takes that. There was a woman who stood in front of my office every day. And then finally I said, come upstairs. I made her the intern for Gary Foster. Now she's written a book now. Tanisha Jackson. Now she's written a book about her rise to, she didn't work for me anymore. She left me. Most people don't leave. We like the mob, but she left. And she's, runs a business, and she booked me to go speak in Africa recently, so she's doing very, very well. But she was resilient, and I said earlier, you can't fail until you quit. And, in the yogic scripture, they say enlightenment or anything happens, the imagination, hard work, dedication, and faith. Miracles. Those who are completely enlightened don't need the hard work, and all they have is so much faith that they just become what they imagine. Those are the miracle workers who live fully in Christ consciousness, or these people. But you have hard work, dedication, and resilience, and no matter what you imagine, it's true. But it does take you to turn single point of focus. No one's going to starve. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be on your mama's couch. And here's the process. You're going to say, maybe if you're younger, or if you come home, you tell your friends, guess what I'm going to do? So I'm so happy for you. That's so nice, right? I'm glad you're excited. And they see you 6 months later and say, how's it going? Say, I'm working on it. I say, but you still broke? Yeah, I'm still broke. A year later, I have never built a business in less than 5 years. I've had to readdress everything over and over. Again, the financial service company took years and years. Fat Farm took 5 years. Argyle Culture is now going to be, it's in all your Macy's in Atlanta. It was in your Macy's in Atlanta 4 years ago. I had to readdress it, and I keep pushing. I don't have any experiences that happen when I plan for them.
What would you say?
When God plans for them, when they come.
Amen. What would you say if I said an entrepreneur works 18 hours a day to keep from getting a job?
That's a good, well, that's good. I like that, 18 hours to keep from getting a job. But it's a job, you know, it's a service. You know, you're trying to provide people with something, and you're your own boss, but you're still a job. You know, so people who get a job working for an entrepreneur, it's a job. The same reason that washing a dish is a prayer. You know, all of your work, if you wash your dish like it's a prayer, then you're going to run that store. And that's the way you got to go to work every day. Work is prayer. You get more from the work itself. You don't get this state of happiness and this consciousness I'm referring to by getting results. When you're making a record, if you're thinking, wait till I get this money, or wait till these people hear this record, you're thinking any of those things when you're making a record, you're making a bad record. You have to be engaged in the melody. Got to be indicated.
So we're wrapping up. I want to ask you one last question and then give you a challenge for the audience. My book, Love Leadership, I wrote, the chapter I love the most is Loss Creates Leaders. And I say that rainbows only follow storms. It's my challenges and my struggles that made me better. And I was homeless for 6 months of my life, Russ. I lived in my Jeep. And everybody counted me out. Everybody said I wasn't what you just said. But you know, God don't make dirt, and you can't fall from the floor. And I got up and I worked every day, but it made me more resilient. That being homeless is the single best asset I have today. It has given me persistence. It's given me humility. It's given me a stick-to-itiveness. I guess the question is, can you relate to that?
It's it. You learn nothing except through struggle. Through ease, you don't get nothing. You learn through struggle. And you know, I always say, practice loving everybody and everything all the time. But hang in places and with people that lift you up. So you embrace struggle as your greatest teacher. You don't look for it, but when it comes, learn from it.
He's signifying.
No, it's true though. Your greatest teacher is struggle, and you can't, you know, it sharpens you. You know, it polishes you, like any stone. So you need to embrace it. You put your head down, and try to. The idea, the yogis and the enlightened ones enjoy struggle. You know, because the idea in the physical practice of yoga, what do? We smile and breathe in every pose. There are 8 parts of yoga, but in the physical practice, just that part, you do very difficult shit. You smile. Put your foot behind your neck and you smile. It hurts, you know, you're twisting triangle, and then you go outside. And
Now is that yoga?
The physical practice of yoga,
You'll get that
smile
later.
and breathe in every pose.
Yeah.
That's the asana practice. You make every pose a seat. And this is what you want to do in life off the mat. And it's a practice to move, as they're all practices towards moving towards enlightenment. And things get easier, you know, as you accept struggle as your teacher. And when you get off the mat, you did all this difficult stuff and you kept smiling, and somebody said something mean, you just keep smiling because that ain't shit. I just did a twisting triangle.
So look, we've had a great conversation. Let's bring this home, Russ. What vision do you have for a world filled with pain and fear and struggle? I think that the most dangerous person is the person with no hope. You just talked really about, for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, about hope. You've institutionalized it. What advice do you have for a world that's racked with fear?
You know, each individual has to make their choice. Some yogis would say it was 100% up to you, your happiness. Well, I could say it's at least 95% up to you. And money doesn't make you happy, so the end result that you are seeking is not going to solve your problem. But I can say for those who want to make money, that happy makes you money. Look to heal the inside and operate from inside out. Operate from abundance. You know, count your blessings. In life, all you need is a comfortable seat. Operating from that seat needing nothing attracts everything. So practice needing nothing. Look to your spirit and operate from there. And that's the simplest, and reminded, it's not what I say now. It's in my book, but it's in the Quran, and the Bible, and the Torah, and the Buddhist scripture, and the Yoga Sutras. It's over and over again. Every prophet reminds us. Just operate from a happy space and do the work.
Do the work. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave you today and do some work. Civil rights. Give this man some love. Russell Simmons, a bad brother. You want to sign some books or you want to?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We enjoyed you all day. Hopefully you had a great experience. How was it? All right. Well, for those who are traveling, travel safe. God bless you. And we'll see you in 2013. Oh, well, Ambassador Young got something to say. So when the ambassador talks, we listen.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
You can't end a meeting like this without a song. Join in with me. Guide my feet while I run this race. Oh, guide my feet while I run this race, Lord. Guide my feet while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome today. God bless you.